Evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Zen and Zazen class. Today in Japan is Children's Day. It's the second to last day of the Golden Week. Tomorrow will be the last day of the Golden Week, but probably for most of us, for most of you, it's just a regular Monday. Anyway, today I will talk about Sawaki Roshi's quotes from this book to you. But before that, let's sit together for 30 minutes. Okay, thank you for joining. Today I will talk about Sawaki Roshi's quotes from To You, and in the printed book we are on page 55, the third quote. It starts with the Chinese character for pelvis, hips, or in Japanese koshi, is composed of the character for flesh on the left side and essential on the right side. In Zazen, from the beginning, it is essential that the pelvis is firmly anchored on the cushion. I wrote this Chinese character that he's talking about on this paper. And on this side here, that's the character. And actually that's the same character that also means moon. But in this case, although it looks the same, it doesn't mean moon, but it stands for flesh. And here on this side, in Japanese, you would read it kaname. That means, well, the essential, the essence of something. So, and in Japanese, you read it koshi. That means, I don't know if it's the same in Chinese, but the Japanese koshi, basically it means the whole lower back area. So it extends from the whole lower back area down to the pelvis bone. So this whole area here is called koshi. And also I think in martial arts, karate and things like that, but also sometimes in Antaiji when chopping wood, the monks would tell me you should put in the koshi. So it's not good to, for example, in karate or in zazen or chopping wood, to kind of have the back bend like this. Koshi or ilelu would be the Japanese expression. Put in the koshi, or put the pelvis bone forward, and of course you can overdo it. So you're not supposed to sit like this. But the idea is that you don't sit with a round back like this, but that the pelvis bone is moving a little bit forward. And often people tell you to also move the chin backwards, but from my experience, these 2 points are actually connected. So when your back turns round, the tendency will be for your chin to move up like this. While if you move the pelvis bone backward, then naturally it helps your spine to stretch, your neck to stretch, and the chin to move backwards. So I think that's the point that Sawaki Roshi tries to make here. The koshi area, the lower back, sorry, is essential when practicing Zazen. I had a look at the Wikipedia pages of the koshi. I would like to share that with you. That's the Japanese Wikipedia article on the koshi. There's also a picture here. And interestingly, in English, it means the whole area from the waist to the pelvic region, lower back and hips. So it's not a really exact, how do you say, word. The English side here links to the waist in English, or in German it links to the Taille, which is actually a quite different area than the area that would be essential for Zazen. And also the other day I was looking at a YouTube video where Zazen was explained in English, and the person explaining said, your posture should be supported by both knees and the tailbone. And I understand what the person tries to say, but actually we're not supported by the tailbone, and also we're not supported by the waist. So here Sawaki Roshi says the pelvis should be anchored on the cushion, but I think In English, the word for what actually is anchoring us is ischium. I don't know if it's pronounced like that. Ischium, or in German it's the Sitzknochen. In Japanese you say sakotsu. Let's look at the Chinese. Maybe it's the same. Yeah, sakotsu. So the sitting bone. That would be the Japanese and also the Chinese and the Japanese expression sitting bone. And you see here, it's these two here that come at the bottom of the pelvis bone. Actually, that's what's supporting us. It's not the tailbone. It's not the whole waist, of course, that's anchored on the cushion, but it's the sitting bone, the sakotsu or ischium, that is anchoring us. Anyway, so in Japanese, there's this word here, koshi, and it's quite important. Often people will tell you, koshi oireru, put in your koshi, and that means also to do something with your whole body and soul, so to speak. Koshi oireru, to be in there. While if you're not really, for example, at work, if you're not really in your work, then the tendency is to go kind of backwards and like this. So it's not only about Zazen, but especially in Zazen, the koshi are important. It is essential that the pelvis, and as I said, it would be more exactly the ischium, the sitting bones, that are firmly anchored on the cushion. Next, sorry, I've been having this for the last 6 weeks or so. I'm still waiting for it to go away. Maybe it's something that in Japanese it's kind of this spring it seems to be going around. They call it in Japanese hyakka-seki, which means 100-day cough, a 100-day cough. And in my case it's 40 days now, so I hope it doesn't continue for 100 days. But yeah, it continues for quite a long time. In Zazen, the hips are rooted in the earth. The top of the head pierces the sky. The top of the head piercing the sky, that's also something that's often repeated in dojos, in Zen centers that belong to the Sawaki tradition. And of course it's not wrong, but again you can overdo it. So the point is not to sit like this and try to actually pierce the sky. I personally prefer the expression allow your spine to grow and stretch itself, just like the grasses, the green grasses around this time of the year. Naturally, they grow towards the sky. Most of the day you don't allow your spine to stretch itself. You sit like this at the desk, you lie on the couch. And during Zazen, rather than you try to pierce the sky, no, you don't have to try to pierce the sky. Allow your spine to grow like a green blade of grass at this season is growing towards the sky. And maybe when you sit, it's just a few millimeters higher than usual, but it's not that you have forcefully tried to actually pierce through the sky. There's another quote by Sawaki Roshi, it's not in this book, but somewhere he says that during Zazen, the anus should be pointing towards the sky. Basically, the idea is that you put the pelvis so much forward that your anus is literally pointing upwards. But of course, that's also nonsense. If you do that, you will do damage to your body. So sometimes Sawaki Roshi is saying things that are a little bit over the top. And the reason for that is, I think that many people, for example, he was teaching Zen at a university, and most of the students probably they were not interested, so they were sleepy, they were not really sitting with their whole body and soul. So sometimes Sawaki Roshi was kind of saying things that were over the top. So sometimes people say in Japan, if you aim at 100%, then you should not aim at 100%, but at 120. Always aim at 120, and then you will end up 100%. And maybe that works for some people. But there's also other people that when you tell them to do 100%, they literally try at 100%. And of course, that's not possible. And they hurt themselves. So I personally say, when you aim at 100%, then aim at 100%. Forget the extra 20%. You don't have to do anything extra. Anyway, next one. Do we still have time? We're still time for another one. When you practice Zazen in a place where you can hear sounds that arouse pleasure, anger, sorrow, or contentment, the waves that they create in your mind keep Zazen from soaking into your flesh and bones. So the end of this quote is quite interesting. Zazen needs to really penetrate our flesh and bones. It needs to soak in. Or we have to soak in Zazen, you could also say. But if there's, I don't know, music that we find entertaining, or maybe music that we find disturbing from our neighbor, there's some delicious smell, there's beautiful girls walking outside of the window and you're facing exactly that window, that can prevent you from letting Zazen sink in, or it prevents you from sinking into Zazen. Especially in the beginning of the practice, I think that's very important. But as you probably know, every Sunday I sit outside in Osaka Castle Park, and there's not a super amount of distractions, but there's people walking by. There's of course planes flying over our head. Sometimes when we sit outside of the fence, right at the edge of the moat, there's security people telling us to please don't sit there. There's people walking by, walking their dogs, whatever. And I think at a certain stage, maybe not right from the beginning, but at a certain stage, it's also important to let go of this idea. I don't want to be distracted. I need a quiet room. I don't want any distractions while I sit. You tell your kids to please be quiet for half an hour because now daddy is sitting. At a certain point of practice, you need to get over that and realize there's no distraction for Zazen, because the whole day is the practice of Zazen. And just because of you sit on the cushion doesn't mean you wouldn't be open for the whole world. You're accessible for the whole world. You open up for the whole world. But of course, what Sawaki Roshi says here is also true, especially for beginners. Of course, you should switch off the radio, the TV. You should turn off the smartphone. Try to find a place that is as quiet as possible. If you face a wall, better than facing a bookshelf with all these many titles. It's much better to face an empty white wall, because all these books that you look at during Zazen, your mind is not entertained. You think about all these books that you already read, what was in there, and all the other books that maybe you haven't read then, and you think about when you want to read them, and so on and so on. So as a general rule, of course, a minimum of distractions is best, because we are not independent of our environment. We interact with our environment. So if the environment is quiet, that helps our mind to quiet down as well. But if our mind is busy, noisy, even if the environment is very quiet, it won't help us so much, because we create the noise, and even the smallest insect will be a great disturbance if our mind is not quiet. Okay, so much for today. Unless you have no questions, I could do another one. But if you have questions, anything you would like to share, you're welcome to do so. Anything you would like to ask or share? Nothing?
Hello.
Hello?
No.
Felix?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. Yes. Hello.
Hello.
What's the name of the author of the book?
The name is Kodo Sawaki. Zen Sayings
Ah.
of
Mm-hmm.
Kodo Sawaki.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
your name sounds German. I don't know if you're German, but there's also a German translation of this, Kodo Sawaki.
Ah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. Thanks.
Hmm. Any other questions? If not, let me do one more quote. We don't have to fill the whole time until 9 in the beginning. I think the idea was to do it until 8:50, but we still have a couple of minutes. So let me do one more quote. If you're looking for stimulation in Zazen, you've been hanging out with the wrong crowd. In Zazen, you have to eliminate all stimulation and not practice anything special at all. I think almost maybe more than a decade ago, there's a quite popular American Zen teacher called Brad Warner, and he wrote an article with the title Zen is Boring. He's a Zen teacher, but he said this Zen is boring. Um, Not everybody agrees. Not everybody agrees. But at least if you're looking for entertainment, then it would be better to watch Netflix or to be on the internet. You will find more entertainment or on YouTube than during Zazen. If you want to be entertained, you will end up bored during Zazen. So the point of Zazen, I always say, is to quit the game. And with game, I don't only mean earning money, but also the idea I want to be entertained. I want to have fun. That's also part of the game. Um, and after Zazen, if you ask yourself, well, was this entertaining? Did I amuse myself? Then you haven't really understood what Zazen is about. It's about taking a break from this always wanting to be entertained. Um, it's not about, yeah, amusing yourself. But I think that's clear in itself. And you have all heard this sentence, Zazen is good for nothing. Zazen is good for nothing. Um, and a lot of people are surprised, but isn't Zazen about having enlightenment experiences? But that, from the point of view of Kodo Sawaki, would also be looking for stimulation. I want my Kensho, I want my enlightenment experience. I want one that is deeper than my neighbor's enlightenment experience. You're still looking for stimulation. You can even forget about enlightenment experiences. Okay, so now it's 8:51. If you have still questions, now would be time to ask. If not, I would wish you a good week. Werner, how's your internet today? Is it working?
I hope so. I want just to say something to Brad Warner and to Zazen. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah, I
So,
can hear you a little bit. I can't hear you well, but it's okay. Try to, yeah, try to articulate.
when Brad Warner says Zazen is boring, and I can agree with him sometimes, because after Zazen, I really enjoy to do my homework, because my homework is not so boring like Zazen. uh, So the daily life is getting more interesting with Zazen. Yeah, I'm very happy about the daily life.
Yeah,
That was,
yeah. Compared to Zazen, boring homework becomes entertaining. I don't know, maybe some of you have this experience when you sit alone for, say, 30 minutes or so, nobody is checking on you. And then it sometimes happens that until then, now your room wasn't really cleaned up. You didn't do the dishes, but didn't care about it. But then when you sit down, out of a sudden you want to clean up the room. You want to do the dishes. And my advice would be to, just like Werner said, sit for 30 minutes and then maybe you have the energy to do it. But sometimes it happens that people then they stop doing the Zen, clean up the room, do the dishes, and still then after 30 minutes, the room is clean, the dishes are done finally. So that's also a good positive effect of Zazen. But actually that's not why we practice. So it would be best to sit through this 30 minutes, notice how out of a sudden you want to clean the room, how you finally want to do your homework, and then after 30 minutes do it. I think that's what Werner also wanted to say. Yeah. So Zazen is good for something after all. It's good for doing your homework and doing the dishes. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Anything else you would like to share?
No, that just reminds me in the sessions that we've done, like it's so hard and so, you're doing so many rounds of Zazen. And then if we finish lunch, and then clean the dishes, and then you might get like 20 minutes to relax in your room. And if you're just lying there like 10 minutes, it's so great just to have that time to just sit there. But it normally, you're not doing anything special. So
Yes.
reminded me of that.
Mm, mm, mm. Of course, it's even better if you can even experience the time of Zazen like that. Most of the day, we don't really have the time to just sit for 30 minutes. Of course, when you do session, you have 15 hours, so it's not special anymore. But ideally, the idea of Zazen is also, it's like these 10 minutes that, well, you have them often during the day. When you wait for the bus, sometimes you have to wait for 10 minutes, but it's only wasted time. And Zazen is an opportunity to actually, wow, I have 10 minutes and I have nothing to do. I can just enjoy these 10 minutes here on the cushion. Okay, thank you everybody. If there's no more questions, nothing else you would like to share, I wish you a nice week for those in China. I think there's also Golden Week in Japan. Enjoy the rest of the Golden Week and I hope to see you back next Monday. We come back to the Hokyo Zammai, the precious mirror Samadhi. Thank you also, Schwan, for hosting us and hoping to see you again.